For very many years, there had been Dashwoods living in Sussex, in the south of England. The family owned a large area of land around their country house, Norland Park. Recently, the head of the family, an unmarried man of great age, had invited his nephew into his home, along with the nephew's wife and children. This nephew was expected to inherit the house and land. The nephew, Mr. Henry Dashwood, and his wife behaved kindly and thoughtfully toward the old gentleman, not out of interest in his fortune, but from goodness of heart, so that he could spend his last years comfortably with these pleasant and cheerful companions. By his first wife, Mr. Henry Dashwood had one son, John. By his present wife, 3 daughters. John, a respectable, serious young man, had received a large inheritance from his mother, and had also added to his wealth through his own marriage. To him, therefore, the Norland fortune was not as important as it was to his sisters, who had very little money of their own. When the old gentleman died, it was discovered that he had not left his fortune to Henry Dashwood to do with as he liked, but only to use during his lifetime. Upon Henry Dashwood's death, the inheritance would pass to John and to John's son, a child of 4 years old. The old man had become fond of the small boy during his occasional visits to Norland, and so a spoiled child was preferred over Henry Dashwood's gentle wife and daughters in spite of their years of loving care. No unkindness had been intended, however, and as a sign of his affection for the girls, the old gentleman left them £1,000 each. At first, Mr. Henry Dashwood was bitterly disappointed, as he had wanted the fortune more for his wife and daughters than for himself. But he soon realized that if he was careful with money in the next few years, he could save enough to provide generously for his family. Unfortunately, he did not live to carry out this plan, as he survived his uncle by only 1 year, and £10,000 was all that remained for his widow and daughters. Just before his death, he sent for his son and begged him to take care of his stepmother and sisters. Mr. John Dashwood did not have the strong feelings of the rest of the family, but such a request at such a time naturally had an effect on him. So he promised to do everything he could to make his father's family comfortable. He was not a bad young man, but rather cold-hearted and rather selfish, although he was, in general, well respected. If he had married a pleasanter woman, he would probably have been even more respected, and perhaps have become pleasanter himself. But his wife was colder and more selfish than he was. As soon as his father was dead and buried, Mrs. John Dashwood arrived unexpectedly at Norland with her child and her servants. She wished to make it clear that since the house belonged to her husband from the moment of his father's death, she did not need any invitation from her mother-in-law. To a widow in Mrs. Dashwood's situation, this appeared unforgivable. In fact, Mrs. Dashwood, a sensitive and generous woman, felt so strongly about her daughter-in-law's unpleasant behavior that she would have left the house immediately if her eldest daughter had not begged her to reconsider. Eleanor, this eldest daughter whose advice was so useful, had a great deal of intelligence and common sense, and, although only 19, frequently acted as her mother's adviser. To the advantage of the whole family, she was often able to persuade Mrs. Dashwood to hold back the violent enthusiasms which were likely to lead them all into difficulties. Eleanor had an excellent heart, full of affection, and although her feelings were strong, she knew how to control them. This was something which her mother had not yet learned to do, and which Marianne, one of her sisters, had decided never to learn. Marianne was, like Eleanor, generous, clever, and sensitive, but unlike Eleanor, she was eager in everything. Her feelings were always strongly felt and expressed. In this, she was very similar to her mother. Eleanor saw with concern how little her sister could control her feelings, but her mother loved Marianne for her sensibility. Now, after Mr. Henry Dashwood's death, Mrs. Dashwood and Marianne encouraged each other in the violence of their unhappiness, becoming more and more miserable as they remembered the past and thought bitterly of the future. Eleanor, too, suffered deeply, but she could still make an effort to discuss business with her brother, be polite to her sister-in-law, and try to persuade her mother to be calmer. The youngest sister, Margaret, was a pleasant girl of 13. But as she already had some of Marianne's sensibility and not much of her intelligence, she seemed likely to grow up without her sister's advantages. Now Mr. John Dashwood made sure that everyone knew she was mistress of Norland, and that her mother-in-law and sisters-in-law were there as visitors. Her husband, however, reminded her of the promise he had given to his dying father that he would take care of his stepmother and sisters. "I had thought, my dear," he added, "of giving the girls £1,000 each. It would certainly be a generous present for them." Mrs. John Dashwood did not approve of this at all. It would mean taking £3,000 from the fortune of their dear little boy. She begged her husband to think again. How could he rob his child, and his only child, too, of so much money? And how could the Miss Dashwoods, who were related to him only by half-blood, which she considered no relation at all, possibly expect him to be so generous? "It was my father's last request to me," replied her husband. "I must keep my promise to him. I must do something for them when they leave Norland for a new home." "Well then, do something for them, but you do not need to give them £3,000. Consider that when you have given the money, it will never come back. Your sisters will marry, and it will be gone from the family forever." "You are right, my dear," said her husband seriously. "Perhaps I should give them half that. £500 would be a valuable present for them."
"Oh, beyond anything. What brother on earth would do half as much for his sisters, even if they were really his sisters? And as it is, only half-blood. But you have such a generous nature." "I would not wish to do anything mean. It is better, on such occasions, to do too much rather than too little. Even they themselves cannot expect more." "There is no knowing what they may expect," said the lady. "But the question is, what you can afford to do." "Certainly, and I think I can afford to give them £500 each. As it is, without my money, they will each have more than £3,000 upon their mother's death, a very comfortable fortune for any young woman." "Indeed it is, and in fact, I begin to think they need no extra money at all. They will be able to live very comfortably together on the interest of their £10,000. That is very true, and therefore I wonder whether on the whole it would be more advisable to pay some money regularly to my stepmother instead of giving money to the girls. 100 a year would make her and the girls, while they live with her, perfectly comfortable.